I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
You better watch out. This is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 114. If you don't already know, I'm Kev Tardello, coming to you on Tuesday, August 1st, and the Bobcats have another commitment. That's right. Most of you saw on social media, Raylan Adams, Newton High School athlete, coming to Texas State as a DB, two-way star over there at Newton. Really terrific player. Nice tall safety. It seems like that's what they're looking for. If you saw, I was hinting a lot at the 17 recruits that were visiting this weekend. He was one of them. Here and some others have committed. But before we get to that, this episode is sponsored by TGC, the Galindo Collective, thegalindocollective.com. That's GALINDO.com. A team of professional consultants dedicated to helping others realize their business potential through people, planning, and practice. Their services cover a wide range of areas such as business strategy, marketing, human resources, and financial planning. They offer full-service solutions on general business evaluations, but specialize in residential and rental properties, commercial operations, and construction. If you own property and want to maximize its profitability, contact TGC at thegalindocollective.com. Follow their social media platforms as well on Twitter at TGC_LLC, and they are at the Galindo Collective on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you to Rick Galindo, a true Texas State sicko, a Texas State grad himself, sponsoring us through the whole season. Lots of great content on the YouTube channel last week, Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube. All of that was sponsored by our guy over there, Rick Galindo at TGC. We were able to go to New Orleans and make a lot of great content. So thank you to him for that. And thank you to the Galindo Collective. Again, they can be found at thegalindocollective.com. GALINDO collective.com. All right. I was hinting a little bit earlier about those 17 recruits that we talked about. I guess I should give a little bit more preface to this episode. We're going to do a mailbag. Got a lot of questions from y'all on Instagram. I'm sorry, on Twitter. I'm never on Instagram. But I took a lot of questions from y'all on Twitter. Looking forward to answering some of those. But let's talk about this recruiting trip from this weekend. We're on the eve of fall camp. You're going to be hearing this on Tuesday, which is report day for the Bobcats. Means all the players are going to come in and report, show that they're there, ready for fall camp. And on Wednesday, they're going to get cooking. They're going to have a press conference for us at 10:30 in the morning, or, whenever they finish practice. That's just the time they tell us to be there. And we're going to get to watch a little bit of practice. Not all of it, though. It seems like they're closing off some of the 11-on-11. Every practice isn't open to the media, just a couple throughout the week, but we're going to be able to get in there and get cooking. So it's a great time of year right before fall camp. It's also a great time of year to host a bunch of recruits before the season gets going and everything gets cooking. That's what GJ Kinney and co. That's what they decided to do this weekend. 17 recruits, all 2024 high school prospects. 15 of those 17 are from the state of Texas. They all came to visit the Bobcats. They took them to the river. GJ Kinney posting videos of him jumping into the river, doing a can opener, hosting all those recruits. Took them to Bobcat Stadium. Looked like they busted out some horses. They busted out a Ferrari. They were all the stops for these guys, really trying to get them in there. So far, it worked. Raylan Adams, Newton DB, as I've already talked a little bit about, he has committed. It's the third commitment for Texas State's class. He joins Brad Jackson at a Reagan High School, the quarterback, and Kylan Evans as well at a Frisco Emerson. He's a wide receiver. So the first defensive recruit to commit for the Bobcats, although I have a good feeling another one has also committed as well. I have the entire list of those 17 recruits that did visit this weekend, including some hints at who I think that other commit is, because it seems like 2 committed over the weekend with a handful of other guys still thinking about it. I have that all on the Patreon, patreon.com/winnoworgetbent. You can still figure out who the secret receiver is as well from the last episode, if you remember that. I put that on Patreon. I still don't have the name of that defensive lineman, but I'll tell you what, I've done enough not giving you guys enough. So here's something I haven't put on Patreon that's for you tuning into the pod. That defensive lineman here is from the Big 12 transfer. So one of you sickos out there, hit that in my DM. So that's a rumor. I don't know for sure because I still don't know it's him. This is one of you that I trust pretty well. So shout out to you. You know who you are. But yeah, you can check that out on Patreon, patreon.com/WinNowIGetBent. You can find out about the transfer for this year and what's going on for next year as well. Say this about some of those recruits that were visiting this weekend. Of those 17, 3 of them are committed. 2 of them are committed to other Texas schools. And I talked to 2 of those 2 committed to Texas schools. And they're thinking about flipping their commitment. I may even get one to come on the pod. So here, I'll give you a little more as well. One of them is a UTSA commit, just because I can't help myself but tell you that one, because that one's too much fun. And they're considering it. So to get some of these players that are already committed to other schools, to get them to come into Texas State and take a visit is pretty interesting. You know, they're trying to rob the cupboard of these other teams as well. They say hashtag take back Texas, and they don't just mean high school recruits. They're trying to take back Texas from some of these other college programs as well. So I found that pretty interesting. Big recruiting weekend, right when we thought it was starting to slow down and wrap up. I mean, what a busy week for GJ Kinney. First, he goes to Sunbelt Media Day. He's in New Orleans for a couple days. Then on that Wednesday, he has a women's coaches clinic where he hosted a bunch of women and did a lot of stuff at Bobcat Stadium. They had a lot of it on social media. And then that Thursday, he hosted a different recruiting camp, which was a bigger one. It's different from like a visit. You know, they bring in these players that run 40 times and do drills and try to get offers from these Texas State coaches. They had that on Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday had this big recruiting visit. I hope he took Sunday off. Hope he enjoyed Sunday with his family at least. We'll see how many they did. It was another party in the park variation, which we've seen from other coaches. This was something started by Withers, and it was adopted by Spavital, and it's been continued by GJ Kinney as well. I mean, when you have the San Marcos River right there, you might as well use it. And so that seems like that's what they decided to do. Bring out some of these recruits, show them some of the cool stuff that's around town. We'll see if it yields more than just 2. It seems like there is 2 right now. It could be as high as 5 by the end of the week from some of the guys, because I was talking to some of these other players and getting their feel and seeing what they're thinking about the Bobcats and everything. And I posted a lot about that on patreon.com/WhenNowIGetBent. Go check it out. Yeah, it's what I've decided to when messing around with Patreon. I'm like, this can be like my own little personal blog. I've always wanted a blog, an outlet to go write a little bit more about these Bobcats. When I first announced it, was last week or the week before, I was like, I'm not really sure exactly what we're going to do. Now I'm starting to figure out like, oh, okay, now I know how to make these $5 a month worth it for these sickos by bringing them all this good stuff. It's more avenues to cover other sports as well. I don't have to rely on like, oh, the Statesman doesn't want an article on baseball or on basketball or volleyball or any of these other sports. I can just put it on the Patreon. That's what I'm going to start doing. So it'll be a lot of inside news, but it'll be a lot of other stuff as well. A little more on Raylan Adams. Go check out his huddle if you haven't already. I loved it. I mean, you could see he's a two-way player for sure. Plays receiver as well. But when you watch his huddle, you could see like, okay, I see why they're looking at him on the defensive side of the ball. I think it's 4 or 5 of the first 6 highlights are interceptions, and the other one is a hard hit by Raylan Adams. So he's definitely got that defensive mindset. And you look at Dexter McCoyle, he himself is a former NFL safety, a tall former NFL safety at 6'4". Adams isn't that tall. He's listed at 6 foot. When you watch his huddle, though, he looks about 6'1", 6'2". He's long, rangy guy. He can really make some plays on the ball. Not afraid of contact either. From his huddle, you can see. Make some good plays at receiver too. So, maybe it's a Josh Eaton situation. If some of you remember Josh Eaton, Oklahoma transfer who just got here, they've been hinting a little bit that he may play a little bit of offense as well. So who knows? Maybe you could see that with Raylan Adams. If this is something these coaches are already considering, like, hey, it's fine if these guys play offense and defense. Maybe Raylan Adams is a good candidate for that as well. But a good first commitment for these Bobcats. I'll say this about the list I have of those recruits that are here. That's a really talented list. On that list, I've linked on each name. I linked their 247 page. So when you click on it, you can go check that out. You see their offers and their stars and all of that. It's a really talented group. It's impressive what these guys have done so early on in recruiting. I mean, they haven't even started coaching a season yet. It's just been an off season from December till now August. It's just been that 7 months or 8 months in the off season, and they were able to turn in a 50+ man class initially, and now they're building for these other classes. I will say comparatively, their 2024 class is a little bit lacking to their counterparts in the Sun Belt and other teams in Texas that are comparable to them as far as how many commits that they do have. Just 3 right now. You look at like UNT has 14. It's significantly less than some of those, but I think there was way more emphasis on this current recruiting class for this season for these guys. I mean, just getting in here as late as they did, they had a lot of making up to do, and so it seemed like a lot of focus was on this class. Now it's kind of the gears are switching towards covering that 2024 class, going after way more high school kids. Obviously, everybody who visited this weekend was a high school prospect. They can now they can start to build up that 2024 class and kind of make up some ground, catch up on these guys. That's why they're even bringing in some guys who already committed to Texas schools and bringing them in and trying to get them to flip. They're playing a little bit of catch up, but you can feel that sense of urgency with this late recruiting push that they did towards the end of the summer. But I like it. GJ, man, making recruiting great again at Texas State. We can say what we want about Withers. That guy is a pretty good recruiter. He knew how to make a lot with a little here at Texas State. Brought in some really talented players, some players that I just tweeted about Cordell Rogers. He's making some plays in the CFL. That's a Everett Withers recruit. So and there's a bunch of other guys as well. But recruiting's important. It has a long lasting effect on a program when you get a guy in, and they don't transfer out with the transfer portal era. But you build the right culture, and guys don't want to leave. And I think that's important. But right now he's doing a good job of getting them in. But let's get to this mailbag. Some good questions. I'll be honest. This seems like one of the smaller mailbags. I didn't push it as much, and I've been pushing a lot of stuff on Twitter. I promise I'll scale it back at some point. Once you guys are aware of everything, I'll start to leave it alone and let you get to it more on your own. So maybe this wasn't seen as much whenever I tweeted out the mailbag, but also I also kind of get it. We've asked all the questions. We've been asking questions all summer. What more is there to ask? So there isn't a ton to ask. We're really just wait and see. I can imagine when I do another end of the month mailbag at the end of August, it's going to be a different deal. There's going to be a lot more questions. But I will say the questions that are there, I did scour them a little bit. There's some really good ones. So I do appreciate y'all getting some of those in. Oh, I did have them pulled up. Now I got to go back through and find them. Don't worry, I can talk my way through this, I'm sure. There we go. Scrolling, I just saw GJ Kinney on a floaty in the San Marcos River. Here we go. Bam. All right. First up, we have my guy Hunter Schuler. What's up, Hunter? Good to hear from you. One of the few sickos out here I've met before. He may have even snuck into a press conference one time. But Hunter asks, he's at Hunter Schuler on Twitter. SCHULER, Schuler. Is this the worst home schedule in recent memory? What away games would have made the home schedule better? I.e., what does a good home schedule look like in the Sun Belt? And how big of an embarrassment would a loss to Nevada be? As far as the worst one, would you say worst home? It's the worst home schedule in recent memory. Well, let's go through it. Let's go through it real fast. So I actually have the schedule as my desktop. It doesn't designate home or not right there. I know I can look at those and designate which is home or not, but I'm just going to pull it up real fast anyway, just so that we have it right here. All right, so let's see. At Baylor, at UTSA. Jackson State is the first one at home. That's not bad. But here we go. Nevada at home. I still contend that that's a winnable game, but that's his question for another one. So we'll wait on Nevada. But right off the bat, those first two, not terrible. It's 2 straight on the road. Then we're back home for ULM in San Marcos, and then it's Troy for homecoming, which I still hate. Come on. I guess October 14th is way too early for homecoming, which I understand, but I really hate the Troy game. But there you go. So that's Troy. That's October 28th. Then after that, November 4th, it is Georgia Southern. Those two are going to be pretty tough. I think Georgia Southern's going to have a pretty good offense this year. Clay Helton as the coach. 2 on the road, and then back home at South Alabama. Yeah, I really looking at it, I hadn't really considered, especially those last 3 home games. That's a pretty big gauntlet. I think ULM, they're going to be tricky. They're going to be spry. I think Terry Bowden's got them right in ULM. But I still think they're still less than the Bobcats, and that's a winnable one. I'd have to go back and look through some of the history and see some of the worst ones. I'll say that's the worst stretch of games for conference for sure, especially to end it like that with Troy, Georgia Southern, and South Alabama at the very end of the season. South Alabama, which is going to be really good. Carter Bradley at quarterback. They're going to have a pretty good season. So yeah, that's a tough stretch in the Sun Belt. It feels like, am I forgetting one San Marcos game? No, that's it. Okay. I guess it just looks like, okay. But yeah, 2 straight on the road to start the season, 2 away games I'll be at too. That's going to be fun. Sorry, I got lost looking at the schedule there for a little bit. What games would have made the home schedule better? A good home schedule, and I guess that's kind of subjective because by strength of opponent, that's a pretty good schedule. Like if you're going to watch some good games, watch some good football, and if you think this team is going to be pretty good, then playing those opponents is actually not that bad. But if you wanted a better home schedule, well, then we'd replace Troy with Arkansas State. We'd replace South Alabama. Golly, because then it's Coastal. Who are you going to replace them with? Find someone a little weaker. What's Old Dominion up to? Can we slap Old Dominion, bring them to San Marcos? It would be teams like that. Like you'd want like Old Dominion, ULM, Arkansas State at home. It's not good if you don't think this team is going to be able to hang in those games, hang against some of these opponents. But who knows? It might end up being a really good home schedule because of that, because you actually get to witness a good game where the Bobcats are hanging in there with some of the best in the Sun Belt. So I wouldn't say it's one of the worst schedules. I wouldn't say home schedules, but schedules in general, as far as them being the 29th in strength of schedule. That's pretty hard. I mean, that's 105 other teams, 106 other teams that have an easier schedule than the Bobcats. So how big of an embarrassment would the loss to Nevada be? I think it would be pretty big because, going back to that one, Incarnate Word beat Nevada. Texas State lost to them. That should have been a game that the Bobcats should have won. Probably overly confident going into that one. I kind of remember that, where there were some stories of coaches coming out and saying that they're gonna score 30 on them or beat them by 30, something like that. There was something about one of the coaches at a bar on Twitter. So yeah, that one would be a pretty embarrassing loss, I would say. It wouldn't be the most embarrassing loss in recent history. I mean, I still say that's the Incarnate Word loss from a couple of years ago. That's pretty embarrassing. To have that happen. I mean, knowing what we know about Incarnate Word and Mac Leftwich, who's the offense coordinator there, and some of these other coaches who've come over were there. Some of these players who've transferred over were there. That was a pretty good team, maybe better than we thought. at the time, better than I thought at the time. I definitely underestimated them, and seeing what they did last year, putting 2 years like that together, I thought they were better than I thought at the time. But still, an embarrassing loss. The FCS team came to San Marcos. Pretty sure they got paid as well to come to San Marcos, and they beat the Bobcats. Less than ideal. Thank you, Hunter. Great question there. Next up, we got Bobcat Superfan on Twitter at Wide Shut Stunt. That's an interesting name. This might be the first question from you. What's up, my guy, Bobcat Superfan? How many wins do you predict this season, and which teams will be beat? Don't forget to add some Bobcat upsets. Okay. I'm still hovering around 6. I was saying it earlier in the summer, and maybe I still have that fall camp optimism. I'm not sure, but that's still kind of where I'm hovering. But again, very timely to have those questions back to back. I have the schedule already pulled up. Let's pull it up. Baylor, I'm going to say it's a loss, everybody. It's a loss. UTSA, my guy said I had to pick some upsets, so let's go. Bobcats over the Birds. What do you say? The Roadbirds. Shout out to Atomic Punk if you're out there listening. So there you go. That's 1-1 there. Jackson State, I'm going to say a Texas State dub. It's 2-1. Nevada, Texas State dub. Let's do it. 3-1. 3-1 coming out of conference is ideal. Is very ideal. I will say similar time in the season last year, the Bobcats were 3-2 right after that App State win. Things were feeling good. Then you go a little deeper into the Sun Belt, and things get a little dicey. Now, coming out of non-conference, 3-1, feeling good. Go on the road to Southern Miss. I'm going to give it a loss. I'm going to give it a loss to Will Hall and the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. The following week, they go to Lafayette. And as I so badly want to give them that win. They haven't beaten Louisiana. I'm sorry, UL Lafayette. That's for Zach Webb, producer Zach Webb. They have a lot of beef, Undergrad school, he did McNeese. Graduate school, did Texas State. That's how we got him here on the good side. But even there, they don't accept that UL Lafayette goes by Louisiana. They don't accept it. And so I so badly want to give that one to Texas State because I really, really want them to do that. But I'm going to say that they lose there, and that puts them at 3-3. Now we go into family weekend. ULM on the docket. Give me the Bobcats. Let's go. Let's punch down. It's not many teams the Bobcats can punch down at in the conference. ULM is one. That being said, they're a feisty bunch. Every now and then they pull one off on the Bobcats, but next week is Troy, homecoming. I really can't stand it. But you know what? Gosh, because what are we at now? What are we at? 4-3 with ULM? Give it to me. Let's go. Troy. That was a 17-14 game last year. That was their homecoming in Alabama. That was a close one. Bobcats barely lost. Let's go. Big upset. That's the big one. That's the big daddy. UTSA would be a big one. Beating Troy. Predict the finish on top of the West. That'd be big. A little come to reality moment the next week with Georgia Southern. I'm going to say loss. Just because I feel like there'll be a little bit of a hangover after a nice Troy win, if that's how it works out. The following week, they go at Coastal. I'm going to say another loss. And then everyone's going to be sweating. The Bobcats are going to be 5-5. What's going to happen? Are we going to get this close to a bowl game and it's not going to work out? And then boom, Arkansas State. They've lost the last 3 years to Texas State. It's in Jonesboro. Tough place to play. That waterfall, it just distracts everybody and they can't focus on winning. But that won't be enough. The Bobcats will beat Arkansas State. That'll be win number 6. And then they'll lose the last game of the season to South Alabama because they're really good. But there you go, 6-6. How about that? You wanted upsets? I gave you Troy and UTSA. I got all the teams that they should beat. Them beating the Arkansas State, ULM. They should beat those teams. They should beat Nevada. They should beat Jackson State. I like it. Everybody. I hate how much I like it. I don't want to be overly optimistic because this team has not had more than 4 wins in a season since 2014. They are projected by Vegas to have, 4.5 wins, and I'm giving them a win and a half more than that. 6-6 though. I like it. How about that Troy upset, huh? I don't know. That one threw me for a loop. I didn't see it coming either until I was looking at them. I'm looking at the schedule on txst.com. It's got that nice yellow homecoming banner above it, and I got excited. But I'd love that. Give me that win over Troy. Which one would be better? Beating Louisiana in Lafayette or beating Troy in San Marcos for homecoming? That's a tough one. I'm going to contend in front of the home fans over Troy. That would be a good one. Get a nice homecoming dub. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. So there you go. 6-6. Gave you 2 upsets, one non-conference, one in conference. Welcome to the show, Bobcat Superfan. Pretty sure that's your first question. At Wide Shut Stunt. You have to explain that one to me. That's an interesting name there. Appreciate the question, man. My guy Jim Johnson, what's up, Jim? At TXST Johnson on Twitter. Seen Jim before for sure. Take your pick. Who's the starting QB week 1? See, I was talking about how the mailbag wasn't very full earlier, but it may not be full. It may not be big, but it is mighty. These are great questions. These are good ones. This is one that it's easy, it's simple, but it's a lot of fun to dissect. But it's simple for one reason. It's TJ Finley. It's going to be TJ Finley. Everything I hear whenever you hear DJ Kenny talk about these quarterbacks, anytime there was some highlight video that they posted from practice on Twitter, and it was going through and watching each player do some of their drills and everything, and there was one quarterback in specific that it took the time to focus on, not while he was running a drill, but really he was just looking off into the distance. The camera's at a lower angle looking up at him. It was just really nice sunny day as well. And that was TJ Finley. And that was, I'm not saying GJ Kinney is standing behind whoever the videographer is and acting like a director over the computer, like, oh, make sure you get the good angle of TJ Finley. But it just feels like this is they're leaning towards TJ Finley and everything you see publicly. They say it without saying it, basically. And to bring him in, and I've said this before, to bring him in after spring practice to see what they saw out of Malik Hornsby and to come out of that and be like, you know what, we need another quarterback. That tells me they were bringing in somebody to take over, to potentially shore up the lineup is in the whole quarterback room, but whoever was going to come in was going to be the guy, and that's TJ Finley. Even if you go on the YouTube channel, you Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube, go check that out. If you're not watching on YouTube, if you're one of the audio heads out there, shout out to those audio heads. You've kept the numbers great despite us switching to YouTube, and I hope I haven't over focused on them. Audio is how I prefer to consume pods. It's why the first 2+ years of the pod, it was audio. So shout out to y'all. But if you are one of the audio only listeners, you missed some of these interviews that we put up from Sunbelt Media Day, where we spoke to GJ Kenny and talking to him about the quarterback situation and just how much focus he puts on TJ and then to CJ. Because remember, we left spring football where it was Malik versus CJ during the spring, and it was a lot closer to a tie than anybody winning. Nobody ran away with it. These guys it was pretty close. CJ pulled out some pretty solid moves as well. Very elusive in that pocket. He may not have that down the field speed like Malik Hornsby has, but he definitely has that agility and a great feel in the pocket for, oh man, it's collapsing. Let me get out of this. So the fact that you hear that from GJ, it's unfortunate for Malik Hornsby, who definitely transferred to Texas State to be the starting quarterback, and he turned down schools like Nebraska that were wanting him to play receiver because he wanted to play quarterback at Texas State. So this isn't me saying at all he's not going to get his chance and he doesn't deserve it, because he does. He's still a terrific athlete and he can throw the ball. We saw him throwing the ball. It was more so decision making, and maybe that was just him getting comfortable with this offense. But this is an offense that takes quick decisions. You have to, we've said it before, it is a vertically choice-driven offense, and that's a quote from C.J. Rogers that he said in spring, because when he explained it that way, I loved it, and I've regurgitated that often on the pod and not on the pod. But it's a vertically choice-driven offense, and that's up to the quarterback to make these decisions, pre-snap reads, how many players are on the field, how many defensive guys are there, where's the linebacker, where's the safety, what's happening everywhere. And that's how they decide whether it's a run, a pass, a short pass, a deep pass, or what's going to happen with the play. A lot of it relies on the quarterback. And so, he can have the athletic talent and the ability, which we saw on display in spring practice. But when the decision-making isn't there, or isn't as quick, or isn't as sharp, this offense is going to suffer. It doesn't matter what kind of athlete is back there. It's going to take somebody who has not just the athletic talent, but the ability to break down an offense and decide very fast, okay, this is what we're doing. So, and in that sense, TJ Finley, he's a grad transfer, 3 years in the SEC at 2 different schools, first year at LSU, second and third year at Auburn, had starts at both schools, which means he went through a camp at 2 different SEC schools, and they decided that's our starting quarterback. No matter how you feel about how he played on the field, like, oh, the plays weren't spectacular, they weren't this, they weren't that. There's some pretty good coaching staffs that looked at him play in these situations and decided that's our best option, that's our guy. So the guy, he can play. He can play. Did he have his struggles? Did he become the butt of a lot of jokes in some of those big markets? Yeah, for sure. It's a different situation here at Texas State. This is the Sun Belt. It's not the SEC. Even if you listen to some of that stuff at Sun Belt Media Day last week, where we're just like the SEC, we do everything like the SEC. It's not the SEC. Sun Belt is rising. Is it the best G5 conference? Everybody at Sun Belt Media Day felt so, and maybe I do too as well. But so I'm not disparaging that. But this is not the SEC. It's a different deal. It's going to be a different deal for TJ Finley. Not saying he's going to have all the success in the world, but he is a guy. He's a sharp guy. Got that, like I said, grad transfer, graduated, was able to still go through all that chaos, all those people, all that pressure, and still get his degree and make his way here. So he's a pretty sharp guy, 6'7". He's got a lot of talent. I don't know, TJ Finley. I said it was simple. It was a simple question, and I was going to give a simple answer, but that was a little long-winded on that one. But that's how I feel. The more I think about it a lot. I think about these Bobcats probably too much, and that's where my mind is when I break it down. I can understand why they look at a player like that and they're like, okay, this is our guy. And who knows what could be available for Malik, some other packages. Injuries happen, so guys need to be ready. So, but in summation, Jim Johnson, TJ Finley. Thanks for the question. Appreciate that one, Jim. Rick Reyna, this one is a comment, not a question, but a very appreciative comment. This is Rick Reyna at 209SOCO on Twitter if you want to find my guy Rick. He says, you forgot to mention the last 2 minutes of each half, the clock reverts to the old way. Stops on first downs and out of bounds. Yes, so I kind of butchered it a little bit on the last episode, so I'm actually glad my guy Rick here has given me another chance to explain it. So the clock now runs on first downs in college football games. That's how it's going to be this season. Since 1968, it had been the other way. It was the one thing that separated college football from professional, is that the clock would stop after a first down. That is no more. First down happens, that clock continues, except in the last 2 minutes of each half. So once the 2 minutes start, it goes back to the old way. Clock stops. So there you go. Great note. Appreciate that one, Rick Reyna. Glad to explain that to everyone. Hopefully we all know, so we're not all confused watching this season. This one is from Miguel. My guy Miguel. What's your favorite football movie? All right, Miguel at Mike _1755. Shout out to you, Miguel. Appreciate you, man. I see you out there commenting all that good stuff a lot. My favorite football movie? Oh, man. So many. I think it's funny whenever you talk about sports movies with people, I feel like I hear more often than not that baseball movies make the best sports movies. All my favorite ones are football ones. So this is a good one. There's a lot of rich text in here. I'm gonna go a less than serious one. Gosh, yeah, I am, because it's truly my favorite. If there's one that I could just put on any time, it's Waterboy. I like it. It's probably, I don't know, I'm not going to say it's the best one. It's not the best one. It is my favorite. I love all the jokes, love the Louisiana stuff in there. I'm an Adam Sandler guy. He's funny. People can hate on him all they want. I think that guy's hilarious. Corny? Yeah, sure. But, sometimes corny's good. I just think it's really funny. I think the football scenes are great. It's college football as well. You don't get a lot of that. You get a lot of like Any Given Sunday and stuff like that, but you don't get a lot of college football ones. Although there's some I haven't seen, like the program that I've always wanted to, that I've heard is really good. And a similar one, it's basketball's Blue Chip. Those are kind of in the same era, those early 90s. I've always heard the program's really good. But no, I'll say my one of one is Waterboy. My one that I think is probably the best, like a good feel good one. Remember the Titans. I'd probably put that one number 2. Remember the Titans is right up there. Number 3, I'm going Friday Night Lights. I almost put Friday Night Lights number 2. I really like Friday Night Lights. That came my senior year in high school. And, it was like it came out right before my senior year. I was feeling a certain type of way. So that might be a good nostalgia pick. The Replacements is really good too. I like that one. That's a goofy one though. Man. Any Given Sunday is okay. A lot of people like that one. I think it's a little too long. I do like how it's like reveal or unveil the curtain, peel back the curtain a little bit, if you will, of the behind the scenes of professional football and how gross it can get and stuff. But I think it's a bit of an exaggeration. I feel like that a lot with Oliver Stone's movies, though. JFK and some of those. It's a little much. So yeah, I'd say that. I'd say my top 3. I was quick to put Waterboy number 1, but my top 3 in no particular order would be Waterboy, Remember the Titans, and Friday Night Lights. Friday Night Lights, so good, man. That's a great one. And it's a true story. So I guess so is Remember the Titans. Both embellished, no doubt. Waterboy's not a true story. I always like to think the Mud Dogs in Waterboy is like ULM, maybe even the Raging Cajuns, or maybe even producer Zach Webb's school, McNeese State, the Pokes. Go Pokes. He likes to say that. If any of you saw the recap of Sunbelt Media Day, my guy Zach Webb put together a nice 2-minute video of the recap. You can see us at McNeese State taking a little quick footage of their stadium where they play. They call it the hole because it goes down into the ground. It's kind of interesting. You almost have to see it in person to understand, but yeah, the hole. So you can go see the hole on that video. But yeah, good stuff. Good stuff, Miguel. Oh, I guess he has 2. But yeah, I like that one. I like that. That's a good one. Maybe I need to put a full list together. That would have been good summer content. Where was that question last month? I needed that, Miguel. Here's Miguel's other question. Will our offense finally be the strength of our team? I think so. I do. Last year, obviously, it was defense. A lot of the times it was expected to be the offense under Spavital, and it wasn't. It was never the offense under Spav. Of course, with Withers, he was a defensive-minded guy, so the strength was always on the defensive side of the ball. So a little bit more balance under Fran, but it's been a while. It's been really since like the Brad Wright era, where it was the offense was the true calling card of the team, and that's a while ago. I mean, we're talking over 10 years ago with that. I think the offense is going to be the strength. I don't think that's to say the defense is bad. They did lose some really good players after having such a strong front seven. Ben Bell obviously is number 1 there, like Nico Ezador as well. They just lost some really good players. Sione Tupo. There's a lot of key players that are gone. So I don't think it'll be as strong like how they had more sacks than they had since 2014 last year. I don't think that's going to be the case this season. Although, I mean, when you watch Packey's defensive coordinator Jonathan Packey, when you watch his defense last year at Incarnate Word, they were pretty decent. There's a lot to be made about the offense, but they had a really good defense as well. I do think the offense is going to be the calling card. I'd love to see them averaging in the 30s. In the 30s, I really would. It doesn't have to be 50 a game like they were doing in Incarnate Word. In the 30s would be spectacular. Something we expected at a Spavital era and never got. Appreciate that, Miguel. Great 2 questions. This one is from @Logan Beast 23. What's up, my guy Logan? Appreciate you, man. Which receivers are you most excited to watch this year besides Hawkins? I am, of the new guys, I think personally I'm excited to see Bo Corrales, just to finally see him in maroon and gold. And I've made a lot about that. That he was former commit out of high school 7 years ago. So I'm excited to see him. As far as receivers that I think are going to be some of the high impact guys, Bo probably will as well. But I'm really anticipating Joey Hobart. That's somebody who 2 guys in this 50-man recruiting class that of their film that I watched that I really took away and I liked that weren't one of the highly touted guys was Joey Hobart, receiver out of Utah Tech, and then Terry Webb, defensive lineman at Kilgore. Seems both are working their way up in the rotation. And GJ, in that interview, it's the separate interview from when he was at Sunbelt Media Day. Check it out on our YouTube channel. He actually talks about Joey Hobart and how he has really impressed him a lot. What I liked about Hobart was how he's a great route runner, and it seemed like he could do his versatility in his routes. It's not like, he's a 5-yard in route or a short route runner or a back shoulder guy or a deep guy. It seems he could do a little bit of it all. He can get your short routes, your intermediary routes, your deep routes. I like what he brings. He can be a useful receiver on multiple levels on the field. So I really like that. I saw a little bit of Drew Donnelly in the spring, and he's the fastest guy on the team, allegedly, from what you hear from people. And so I'm a little excited to see that. I'm ready. I want to see Julian Ortega-Jones. I think he's going to take a step up this year. I think he's going to be one of the other. We talk about Ashton Hawkins coming back from last year, leading receiver, as we should. Julian Ortega-Jones really started to come along late last year, looked terrific in the spring. I think this offense really speaks to him, how it moves really fast. That seemed like something he was really used to. Let's see. I'm excited to see Sean Shaw, 6'6", Iowa State transfer, sporting a sweet mustache in some of these summer workouts. So I'm ready to see him out there. Cole Wilson. I've heard a lot about Cole Wilson. He's a shorter guy at 5'7", 5'8", but he's beating everybody out in these vertical jumps. I mean, when Brett Huth puts out these tweets where he's got 40 inches on the vertical, so I mean, he may be short, but he makes up for it when he jumps up in the air. I heard a lot of great things about him. There's a lot of really good receivers at Incarnate Word. Remember, he was an Incarnate Word transfer. There's a lot of good receivers, so he didn't get in the rotation a ton, but he was also a freshman. So that played into why he wasn't be able to get ahead of some of these older guys. So I'm anticipating some really good things from him as well. These receivers are exciting. They're new. That's the only thing. Last year the receiving group was a little disappointing. It was supposed to be better. Obviously not Hawkins. It was supposed to be a little better than it was. It was better than it was as opposed to like the year before when it was terrific. When it felt like Marcel Barbie and some of these other guys were really humming, just didn't come together as much last year. But that being said, this year it's a lot of new guys, so it's hard for me to be like, man, they're going to be terrific, because it's a lot of unknowns of like this guy that they look like they could be pretty good. But we'll see how they look in this offense and what it looks like around them. But yeah, so I would say outside of Ashton Hawkins, I'm most excited about Hobart for sure. I really think he's gonna contend with Hawkins as being the leading receiver on this team. Wilson as well. Bo Corrales, Sean Shaw, big bodies. I'll tell you who's the receiver I'm most excited about. It's the one I haven't told you on this pod. you can only find it on patreon.com/winnoworgetbent. A P5 transfer already here. Just has to finish school. Who is it? Don't know. Another plug. You guys sick of it yet? Sorry, everybody. We'll scale it back, I swear. But thank you, Logan. Appreciate that question, Logan. Appreciate your support as well, man. I see you out there on these Twitter streets and in these comments all the time. Next one is Max Peck. I can't tell if this is a question or a comment. I'll read through it. My guy Max Peck. What's up, Max? Appreciate you, man. At JamHud2 on Twitter. Hopefully 4 wins coming against Jack State, Nevada, Louisiana Monroe, and Georgia Southern, all at home. Thoughts on Southern Miss and Ark State road games? I wouldn't say Georgia Southern is a given. They're in their second year with Helton. I think they're going to be a sneaky good team. Not great, but good. So not necessarily a given. I think even when I did that read, when I read through the schedule, I gave that one to Georgia Southern. So maybe it's 7 if I'm wrong. So hopefully you're right and I'm wrong, and there's actually 7. Thoughts on Southern Miss, Arkansas State? I think that Southern Miss one is going to be pretty tough. I had that one as a loss when I went through the schedule, but I think Arkansas State, that's a winnable one. They've won the last 3 years against Arkansas State. So it's Wolves down. If you can see on the YouTube channel, I'm hitting them with a Wolves down. Got to start that rivalry with the Red Wolves. So yeah, no, I definitely think that'll be one. He ends the question with nutsack sucks. That's a heck of a thing to read on a pod, right? Obviously, he's doing the UTSA thing with UTSA in the middle of nutsack. So there you go. I had to read that. It was on the question. I should have called for earmuffs if there's children around. Appreciate that. Appreciate you, Max. And last one we have here is from J.E. Heath at Luther Nerd on Twitter. Are there any updates on the Bobcat Stadium sponsor search? Actually, there is. I do have an update for you there. I did see UNT just named theirs. I think they named it DATCU, which I guess it's the company. It's all caps. DATCU. So if you read it, it looks like it says the TCU Stadium. Plenty of jokes going around about that on Twitter if you haven't seen it. Very strange for them, right in the, about 45 minutes from TCU, from Denton to Fort Worth. That's an interesting choice to go with. They've already made their decision, so I'm sure that's probably why it's fresh on your mind with that. But nothing yet. UNT has been looking to name Apogee Stadium way sooner than Texas State. In fact, I even have an official answer from Chris Coots, Media Relations Director at Texas State. Let's see. Where is it? Here we go. No update beyond our consultants have had several meetings with prospective partners. So there you go. Nothing official yet on that front. It'll probably take a little while. They're going to be kicking the tires and figuring that whole situation out. So, but yeah, there you go. Great questions, everybody. Not a whole lot of questions, but I was still pretty long-winded with them, huh? They were great questions. Appreciate it. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Like I said, I've plugged the Patreon enough. You saw that. If you're watching this on YouTube, go subscribe, please. Comment, like, all that good stuff. I see you in the comments out there. My guy Dylan always in there commenting again. He said he's going to start an account for his dog. Greatly appreciate it. I'm looking forward to seeing Scruffy or whatever your dog's name is out there in the comments. If you're listening on the audio files, make sure you're subscribed there. Leave a little comment there if you want as well. Check us out on our Twitter platform, at WinNowOrGetBent on Twitter, at WNOGB on Instagram. We're hitting all the social medias. We're hitting it hard on the YouTube channel, putting a lot of stuff in there. Like I said, with the Patreon, we're going to be using that as a blog, updating a lot of stuff, not just the inside info, but some articles and other stuff I'm going to be writing out there quite a bit. Thank you to Zachary Webb for producing this episode. Man, it's working hard. 6 videos for Zach Webb last week. It was incredible. He did a great job. I can't thank him enough for everything he does. And I can't thank y'all enough for tuning in and supporting the pod. This thing is literally non-existent without you. We couldn't do any of this without you. So thank you so much for all your support and always tuning in. All right, everybody. Until Friday, win now or get bent.